Maybe if you think sometimes this gear is needed, how could it be used differently for a less negative impact?
I mean, I feel like guns honestly are just going to be a negative impact regardless. But if there was a positive one, I would say probably don't use these standard military weapons and go back to the standard California, whatever you want to call it, weapons instead of these high it makes me, because honestly, with this going on, it makes me feel like it's like a war in the city or something like that, you know. And
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be the vibe of the city, you know. People should know that they're safe.
Be needed if they feel like they're threatened and like actually really threatened, not, I feel unsafe because people are yelling and speaking loudly. I feel like that should be only be used if necessary. If people are getting violent with you, throwing things, threats, things like that. That's where I feel like, we could use military equipment and things like that, try to push people back. But we also need to make sure we aren't killing people, we aren't hurting our people.
Is like, what do you think OPD could do instead of using this military equipment and gear?
Yeah, so instead of like, just using it as our community to respond to violence and using weapons dedicated to violence, it should be every situation is different, whether that's an emergency or whether that, but all of those have to have all every situation needs to be analyzed, that all lives matter, like no lives should be killed as a result by using any of these weapons, so even just starting off, like I see that in 6 months 103 assault rifles and sniper rifles were used, especially 40 times in the east. That is like shocking numbers, to see that our babies, our youngsters are exposed to all this, and the deployments of the Bearcats, which is like SWAT, even the armored SUV, like that goes to show that they're using this equipment to respond to these issues without intentionally saying, hey, how can we prevent a life being lost in these scenarios, so yeah, no, I don't appreciate it, especially like even when it comes to surveillance and using less lethal, like that shouldn't even be a language. There
Right.
shouldn't be no lethal at all.
Think OPD's use of this gear protects the community's civil liberties, and why not?
Well, first of all, absolutely not. And let me ask you something. If your child could not be trusted on a skateboard, would you give them a BB gun? OPD cannot solve car theft. OPD cannot solve rape, robbery. OPD is a group of incompetent, highly paid professionals who suck at their job. In what situation would you give someone who is not actually good at their job more power, more resources? They're irresponsible. They kill people. There's no good to the Oakland Police Department at all. It's not even good for the economy because most of the officers don't live in the city. The Oakland Police Department is a cesspool of incompetence, and they work only for rich people. If you're not rich, don't call the Oakland Police Department in your life. The military weapons is to keep us controlled.
I don't think they should be having any kind of military. It's because when you think of it in the grander scheme of things, it's kind of like they're like preparing for war against us in case the community does decide to rebel. They're going to be ready at all times because that's what they don't want. They don't want us to rebel against them. So they got to stay ready. They got to have tanks in the neighborhoods. They got to have, helicopters and all of that, like, and it just gets worse and worse. The crime is bad and poverty is, but it's just if there was just an equal amount of basic human rights and needs being met, then I guarantee none of that would even be happening in the first place, and they come from such a punitive state of mind that they throw somebody in jail, they get forgotten. And then that's a whole other cycle and a whole money scheme in itself. And so I feel like police are just like a lost cause, really. Definitely to be in some type of like law enforcement or even firefighters, they're supposed to be there to help us, or even in domestic violence situations, yeah, like, who are you going to call? But I don't know. I would definitely just start with their ideology, the way that they think about us, and not to fear us. If anything, we fear them. I fear them. I get pulled over for something I don't even think I did wrong or something, and I immediately start shaking, because I'm nervous. And I don't even need to be nervous, but then they use these tactics, and then they use these, they're allowed to make you think you crazy, or to question you, in certain ways, and to interview you in a way that's like confusing, and it's not cool, so I don't know. I feel like that's it's a good question, and I appreciate your question. And I hope I made sense in what I said. um, But yeah, I think it definitely just kind of starts with the within of the type of person that, for like police officers.
Alameda County spends $800,000 per year to incarcerate one youth. However, OUSD only spends about $16,000 per year to school one youth. So, how do you think those funds could be allocated correctly to provide for our communities?
Um, well, kids with opportunities don't do crimes, right? So all the money you put into that youth, you put into you know after school programs, if you put into uh, career readiness programs, if you put into arts, really the arts is the main one because kids need an outlet, and including boxing programs for the rambunctious ones, karate, all that. If you put money into that, then you know, um, you're not facing those same problems. But the question we got to ask also is, you know, what are they invested in? Do they want that many black people entering the workforce? There's a long history of people protecting their own. There's racism. There's people who still just don't want to, literally, don't want to see us do well. So um, it's no accident. So yeah, we can ask for every time we advocate for better from their side, we need to be talk about how we can do better for ourselves and just tell them stop fucking with us.
I think today, Tuesday, is the day that it ended. So we already know that the teachers were asking for funding. I remember when I graduated, there's teachers who were paying out of pocket for their materials, for their resources. So it's already very obvious what we need to do is pay for these programs that are supporting students, restorative justice programs. So we have peer-to-peer mediation. We have all of these different nonprofits that support our youth. We need to put them into the schools and fund those programs so that our students have a safe place to go after school. They're getting nourished because these programs are supplying them with food and transportation most of the time, and just put money back into ourselves, into our students. Have a student advisory council where they're telling you where they want the funds to be allocated, and that goes for the city and for OUSD, the education, Alameda. All of the school boards need to have their student voices uplifted.
How does OPD's use of military equipment make you feel about the safety in Oakland, and especially about police?
Honestly, I would feel unsafe just because the fact that they have these upgraded guns than normal like cities would have, like normal guns and everything. It's the fact that it's militarized. I wouldn't permit it in my city. I wouldn't feel safe if I had a family out here. Personally, I would like do everything in my power to make sure that it doesn't keep happening out here.
I mean, Oakland has already been at a standstill with OPD in terms of their involvement in schools, their involvement in situations that don't need to be escalated with violence. And so I don't believe it's wise for them to be weaponized. I mean, I don't believe it's wise for them to be provided weapons instead of de-escalation tactics. When we still have accidental deaths due to officers not knowing how to de-escalate situations, we can't expect them to be militarized and expect more people to survive after the season of that.
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
It makes me feel like it makes me wonder who they're protecting, right? If they're protecting themselves or protecting us. Because it looks, from the looks of it, the military use in Oakland has been more so against the community that they've been sworn in to protect, rather than actually using it to protect the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, protecting their own selves and their own
Right.
ideals and
Yeah.
stereotypes that they place upon the people.
These use of military equipment does not make me feel safe in Oakland, and the police alone don't make me feel safe anywhere, let alone Oakland. Especially growing up in Deep East Oakland with a big police presence because it's very active up and down International in the 90s. There's been multiple murders in the neighborhood that I live in of young people, young black and brown people. And it just instilled a lot of fear and anxiety in me. And it sucked that I've had certain memories of like trick or treating in the neighborhood or like learning how to ride my bike up and down my street. But as I got older, like I can't sit in my car for too long because they're bipping people and robbing people and shooting people, or like having to pray for my loved ones every night because I'm afraid that like my dad will get pulled over, my brother, and just like, you know, get dropped by the police. And it sucks that that has to be a fear when really like these are the folks who are supposed to quote unquote keep us safe. And so the fact that they have access to military grade weaponry is like super sick because who are you trying to protect with that? Like it ain't no wars going on in these streets except for them against us.
Right.
And so there's no type of public safety that the police offers
Right.
for black and brown communities in Oakland.
It really doesn't change like my opinion on the police. I always viewed them as like kind of like militaristic. So like just they're down to use force for whatever means essentially. Um, that's just what I've been like just growing up. That's what I've seen. That's what I've felt. Just being in that like same vicinity when they come into like places where I am, I get that tension. So seeing this data is really not surprising to me. Uh, yeah.
Um, I have a lot of thoughts about it. I think that what I'm gonna say is, well, first of all, I don't feel safe. I don't feel like the cops having that type of equipment is for our safety. They use it for their quote unquote safety when they feel like they're in danger and they have the license to kill because of that. And the immunity that they carry behind having those weapons, I feel like it makes them feel entitled. It makes them feel like they can do whatever they want to do. Some of them, regardless of their intentions and their backgrounds, I don't really care because I just feel like if you're going to be a part of law enforcement, then you're just going to ride that wave of how they all move as one. And it's crazy because they're able to kill and murder people and never be held accountable for it and get paid administration or get paid leave for however many years until a case is solved. And cases go years and years and years without really even getting to criminal court, only civil. A lot of cases end up being stopped at like the settlement conferences, right, with the money. But if a person murdered someone else and they wasn't police, or just a person murdering another person, it'll go straight to criminal and someone would be incarcerated. And so I just feel like it's just a huge unfairness with that. And so I don't feel good about it. I could get pulled over for anything. I could get pulled over maybe for speeding or something, missing a traffic stoplight or something regular, it could be anything. And my life could be in danger. Kids could be in the car. You know what I mean? There was my brother had his girl in the car, you know what I'm saying? And he was unarmed. And so it's just, I'm not sure what goes through these, like the cops' minds when they're in those positions, when they pull somebody over, or, when they do things like that. But I don't feel safe. I don't feel like it's for my benefit. If anything, it's for their benefit, right? So I think that something should be done about it. I think that I really don't even know what would be an alternative to that at this moment, because I know that they have to carry some sort of weapon, but I feel like they don't have to go straight to shooting people first. Absolutely not. especially young people, because I'm young. There's so many young people that get killed by police that it's not even okay. So I think that's essentially how I feel about the military equipment that OPD and sheriffs and CHP be having.
I'm just super against the over policing the people. All studies show that it does not positively affect people's uh, feeling of safety. It doesn't lower the crime rate. It's just not effective. It's ineffective. It's like antagonizing a kid and expecting them to behave well. And not that we're kids, but when you talk about populations who already uh, just suffer like just lower socioeconomic symptoms. You know what I'm saying? Like worse schools. You know, worse schools. You know, parents not most a lot of homes not being two parent homes. You know, so to increase that type of police presence only further antagonizes these communities and makes things worse. So I don't fuck with that shit. So
Yeah, when it comes to safety, I believe that there that Oakland's approach towards keeping safety is just like let's fight fire with fire, you know. And in reality, it should we should have other alternatives where this funding could go. Oh, we should have other alternatives where this funding should be allocated to, especially like with community police. You know, people that could check in with folks directly, or even it doesn't even have to be police. It could even be some of the programs that are helping us keep security right here, here in 510 Day. You know, and I think that's where the priority should be, and also especially if these are, for example, deployed in 32 times on High Street, like there should be conversations taking place that are intentionally aiming to minimize the violence here in the east, in the deep, in the west, wherever you see this being used and deployed.
Yeah.
But if we put the numbers together, we won't see these numbers being deployed in the hills and all that, you know. But it doesn't justify them using this for that, you know.
What are your personal experiences of military equipment in Oakland?
Yeah, so my personal experience, like I come from Deep East Oakland, California, and we see all of these equipments being used on a daily basis, you know, for our community, whether it's like an emergency or an active call that's going on. So even especially when it's a chill day, we might even see the drones coming out to do surveillance in our neighborhoods, and that, to be honest, feels super uncomfortable. But yeah, I'm pretty familiar with all these equipment with that OPD has in as an arsenal.
Honestly, when the George Floyd riots were going on, a lot of the police officers were shooting, rubber bullets, such as youth, especially when they were looting and things like that. And that was my own personal experience. Like a lot of my friends were hit by those rubber bullets, which are still, they still have scars from them. They still have to look back and be like, damn, I was shot by Oakland police. At least it wasn't with an actual bullet, but it's still, it's wrong that even if they aren't using rubber bullets, the rubber bullets are enough. They create welts, bleeding. I've seen it. Like I literally had to carry my friends into the car after them being shot with rubber bullets for just pretty much us protesting, trying to make more awareness about police brutality and things like that.
So my personal experiences, I'd say the closest one that I have to that is in relation to the murder of my brother about 3 years ago, or about to be 3 years this June. He was murdered by CHP, and the officers who were the highway patrol officers who killed them all had military guns, and one in particular, his name is Richard Henderson, had a 30-round clip that apparently the CHP knew and had docked him for it, but then still allowed him to carry that, and he emptied his entire clip on my brother. And the other two officers, I can't quite recall what kind of guns they had specifically that were military use, but They were all very high level weapons. And in the manner that they killed him and murdered him, just kind of always, it's not even justifiable. And it just really breaks my heart because I feel like it was just roadkill, like it was just really unnecessary. And between three men on one person who was unarmed, for a traffic stop, just kind of blows my mind. So I'd say that's like the most personal experience I have and why I'm passionate about this issue, because nobody should die like that at all, especially for no traffic stop and for a person who's unarmed. And then, it wasn't just him that was also shot, but his girlfriend that was in the car as well. She luckily survived, but my brother did not. They shot him 50 to 66 times total. I don't between the three officers. One, they just shot different kind of rounds, but it was a total of 66 from the last time that I spoke with my lawyer. So crazy.
Man, thanks for just sharing your testimony, for being here on behalf of your brother. Just to honor his life, can I just invite you to share his name with the community and for this hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. My brother's name is Eric Salgado, and he was killed June 6, 2020. In Oakland, in a residential area. That's another thing, too, if I could just add, because that could have been anybody around in that area at that time of night, which was around 11:45 p.m. Anybody could have been shot. It could have killed a innocent bystander, could have went through people's houses. They were in a residential area. There's a school right down the street. He was killed on 96 and Cherry. And that was, cops should not, CHP, OPD, sheriffs should not be carrying those kind of guns and killing people in that way at all.